Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpit Queen, and I'm reporting live from my little cabin in the woods. You can see my little Christmas tree behind me here in East Texas. And we've got a bunch of authors with us tonight, and one in particular who is our very special guest from Beaufort, South Carolina. We've got Donna Keel Armour here tonight. Hi, Donna.
Hey, how is everybody?
We're pretty good. We all were just chatting just before you came on the show and on live for the program tonight. But we're very excited about your book because I was telling her before this all started that there's nothing that I love more than reading. But when I read books, especially my international travel books, I love to go to those places. And one of the favorite places that I go is Italy. So we're very excited to hear all about your book tonight and learn about your writing process and who Donna is. We want to know who you are. And that's a lovely, very Pulpwood Queen-esque, beautiful necklace you have on. Is that
this is my tiara.
Oh, well,
I put it around my neck instead of on my head.
You know what? I like it. We always tell the guys they can wear ball caps because most of them don't have crowns handy. So I think the necklace is a wonderful idea. So tell us all about yourself, Donna.
All right, I'll give it a shot. And then please ask questions as we go if I get off course or any of those things. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, and I'm the youngest of 4 sisters. And I grew up play acting out Little Women all of the time, if you can imagine.
I can.
Yeah, it was the first.
I did it myself, so yes.
I remember my mother reading to me even before I could read myself. So when I'm asked what book, was the first book or influenced you the most, it's always Little Women. So with that in mind, I had no thoughts of being a writer as I was going through my life. I was I had a very tumultuous time in my life, as I think most of us do from time to time. The first 19 years were like perfect, safe. And then I went out in the world. I got married, I got divorced, I remarried, got divorced, finally went to school, to college, because I'd never been to university, and felt like I could not support myself if I did not do this. So I went on and got a degree in psychology and social sciences, and then went on with my master's in, of all things, theology.
Oh my goodness.
So my intention was to be a hospice administrator.
Oh, how wonderful.
Okay. Well, yes, but plans go astray.
Oh, and believe me.
Yeah, and I tried. I've read your book.
I've done it all, man. I've done it all.
Oh, I know. Yeah. So, as time went on and I became involved in took a job in corporate America instead of hospice, because I actually had been in school, I had been doing part-time jobs and I really needed some funds. So I took a job as a medical underwriter. That's how I started out my career. And my very last job, I was president of a company. So
oh my goodness, that's really fantastic.
Really went all the way through every role you can imagine to get to that. And it wasn't until I retired, and I loved writing, but I was always writing technical things. But when I was 16, I'm going to kind of go back and then move forward. When I was 16, I wrote a poem and it was published in my school magazine. And so that was sort of that was my first time I was published. So when I retired, I decided I would write an article. And the very first article I wrote was a travel article. And it was to an Italian wedding that I was invited to. And it was an amazing experience. The reception was in a castle that was built in 1056. And it was just, hi, Eileen. And it was just beautiful. So I just wrote an article and submitted it to a local magazine, and they accepted it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the editor called me and said, would you be willing to freelance for us? And I'm like, okay. So I did that. And I did that. We had, when we retired, we moved to Columbia, South Carolina. And then I didn't like Columbia, South Carolina. And a lot of things went on. If you've read my book, in the prologue, I talk about the fact that my oldest sister got ovarian cancer, and another sister and I nursed her for 8 months before she passed away. And that really brought a lot of things home to me, that we have a very limited amount of time here on this earth. And what do I want to do with that time? And right before my sister was ill was the time that I went to Otranto to sort through my life. So when I came back, my intention was to write, to focus on that, but then this happened. My sister was ill, so 8 months went by. And as soon as my sister passed away, I went for an eye surgery that was supposed to be routine, and I had put it off for longer than I was supposed to, and my eye hemorrhaged in the surgery. So I lost the sight in my right eye.
Oh my God.
Um, and so you're there and you're thinking, what am I going to do? What is going to happen to me? My life, everything. But as it turned out, that motivated Ray and I to talk about what happens as we grow older and different things happen to us. And he said to me, are you happy here in Columbia? And I said, no, I'm not. And he said, where would you like to be? And I said, somewhere where I can walk everywhere, or where it's very easy for me to find places or a community that I feel like would be a good place to be. And so we chose Beaufort, South Carolina. Now, I met Pat Conroy for the first time in 1995, and I met him when he signed my copy of Beach Music, which I
Oh,
still have. I was number 112, and I still have the card with 112 on it. And so I really, I knew he lived here, but it was like, you just don't think about it. And we moved here, and don't you know, I went to a reception that he and Cassandra gave, and he was standing there in khaki pants with a big hole in them.
yeah,
I was so like, oh my gosh.
that's pretty much Pat. Yep. Yep.
So, but what I discovered here, and Pat had to have been the engineer behind this, was a writing community that was absolutely fabulous and supportive. And I found a niche. I found a writing group. And the very first time I went, they said to me, before I came, because it was like a try and see if it fits thing. And they
Sure.
said, well, when you come, you have to have a piece to read and we will critique it. Well, I was just freaking out. I thought, what am
Oh,
I going to do? But I thought about that trip I took, and I had all the journals I kept. I had all the photographs. I had all the memories. So I wrote which is what is now chapter 45, The Last Supper. And I took that to the group and I read it. And they all said, you need to write a book. So I said, oh, okay. So that's how I got started on writing. And it was just a grand experience. I had no expectation that I'd ever publish a book. I just wrote for the pure joy of reliving those experiences. And I have such a love for words and literature and literacy. And writing just made it all come alive and seem very real and personal to me. So I was sort of amazed when, I finished it and it was like, what I do now. And friend says, well, you have to find a publisher or you have to self-publish. And so I found a publisher, and I have to tell you, because I'm still pouting over this, but my working title for my book was The Importance of Trash. And I love that title, and my publisher hated that title. So I wound up with Solo in Salento, which a lot of people mix up with Salerno, Sorrento, but Salento is actually a part of Puglia. Puglia is the region, and like I live in the Low Country, Salento would be similar to living in the Low Country.
Right.
So the region's divided, and the northern part is called the Gargano, and then the southern part is called Salento.
How different that cover would have been if it'd been the importance of trash.
I know.
Actually, that really gets my attention.
Well, one of when we designed the book cover, which was hilarious, you're so naive when you write your first book. You just don't know how anything works. And, I just said, oh, I don't like the cover. And Cassandra King told me later, she says, they never let me make a decision about my cover. And I said, well,
pretty much the case. Yeah.
Yeah, they had the statue here was like the David, so it was really masculine, and the dress was yellow, and it was sort of a mustardy yellow, which I didn't like. And I said, oh, all my life I've wanted to wear a red dress. So put a red dress on her. So we did, and we gradually agreed on everything. But I still love the importance of trash, because the book itself is about the importance of trash, our personal trash, and the universal trash that we all carry around with us. And it was what I learned while I was there alone for that period of time. And there was no one saying to me, oh, we're going to be late doing this, or the phone's ringing and I've got to do that, and you're responsible for showing up here or there. It was just me and no one else. And it was such a freeing experience. And when I was, the first thing that happened to me was Italy was just learning how to recycle. And it was very complicated, and it still is to this day. They have many trash cans, and you have to prepare your trash in certain ways for the different trash cans, and they're different colors, and they go out on different days, and they go out 6 days a week. So it's very time consuming. And I was just like, my landlord spoke not a word of English, and I never met him, ever. We text back and forth, and I would text with my very limited Italian and a lot of English words interspersed. And I'd wait, 3 or 4 days before he'd get back to me, because he had to find someone that would translate what I was asking him into English and get back to me. So it was during this time that I kept trying to put the trash out, and the lady next door kept disapproving my trash. And I would spy on her from my window, because every time I would put my trash out and go back inside, she would come out like this and stand and stare at my trash. And I knew immediately it was the wrong color, it was the wrong day, it was the wrong something. But over time, it became this metaphor for my life of all the trash that I had collected along the way. Being married and divorced twice is trash. You lug it around with you. I was ashamed of that. I felt guilty. I never told anybody. I mean, my best friends didn't know I'd had this until this book came out. So it's like, uh-oh. But the surprising thing that happened to me is a lot of people that read it contacted me and said, oh my gosh, I've been married 3 times too. And I just can't believe you're telling us that. And I can share that. Thank you so much. So, it's really a beautiful story when your story connects and you find those universal themes of what is really important to each of us, and where do those important things line up together when our paths cross, just like tonight. Eileen is the one I have met. So the rest of you I haven't met, and I don't know if I will, but our paths are crossing. And in this moment, it's a gift that we give to each other, sharing our stories. I'm just so excited now. that once I was able to tell part of my story is to be able to listen and hear other people's stories, and to find those connections. So that's sort of where I am. I'm busy working on my second book. It will be finished, I swear, by the end of December. So I've only got a few more days to work on it.
Yay, that's a good, and how long did it take you for your first book?
Uh, this is this is a question that that I'm asked a lot, and it if you have to think of it in the answer in different ways, because I had the experience and then I had all the turmoil in my life, so nothing was written at all. So I started the book. I joined the writing group in 2015. We meet twice a month, and I'm still in the same group, which I absolutely love.
Wonderful.
So supportive. And so twice a month I wrote a chapter. So I have, I don't know, 50 chapters in this book. So, you can kind of do the math. So I write it and then I put it aside because I'm a nervous wreck about writing a book, and I put it aside for a while. Then I pick it back up because all these self-doubts, who would read this? Oh my gosh, it's just boring, it's ridiculous, I'm never going to publish it. And then you get a publisher and it's like, oh, they're going to do something with this book. But the publishing experience is a totally weird experience, is all I can say. And it's a very long experience. You go through so much. You have a development. And I had already, before I sent mine in, because I didn't know what I was going to do, I hired an editor, a line editor, to go over everything. But with the publisher, you have a developmental editor that looks at everything and makes suggestions, and you can take or leave it. But again, that's a period of a block of time. And then you agree on what you're going to agree on. And then you have a line editor, and that goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And in the meantime, the cover's being designed. You're talking about your book launch. You're trying to figure out what in the heck you're going to do because you hate to speak in public and you don't know anything about marketing. So it's all of that stuff that goes on. And then guess what, y'all? My book was launched right in the middle of the pandemic. So my book launch, which was supposed to be at the Pat Conroy Literary Center, never happened. It was just, it's just a part of our lives now that impacts us in so many different ways. So you become creative and you figure out, okay, I got to learn this technical stuff now. I got to learn how to Zoom, and I got to learn how to put a slideshow together. And I've got to make sure that the people that I'm Zooming with know how to share things with, so I can get my slides up. All that stuff goes on, and it's like crazy. And then for a little while, I had social distancing things, where everybody wore masks and you'd kind of stand way apart from each other. So it's just been a wild and crazy experience. And for any of you that have published during this time, you understand what that's like.
Yep.
Very, very unsettling. But the book, it's full of connectiveness, and I hope love, and particularly joy. And I sign my book Great Joy because that's what I found through my experience was joy. And that was the story I wanted to talk about, is we all have the lumps and the bumps in the road, but we have joy if we remember that we have joy and we develop joy. Hey, I love that cutie kitty.
She's trying to peek at you.
Is he totally black?
No, she's a stripy gal, but the light is so here, you're not seeing her. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. That's okay. What else, Kathy?
Well, it's fascinating hearing about your process, and I'm nodding my head so much because for 21 years I've heard this over and over and over and over. And being a published author myself, and with my first book was Marley Rusoff was my editor, and we pitched it and it went to bidding war in New York. And let me tell you what, I was probably one of the last person that ever got an advance because
I know.
nobody gets an advance anymore. And I remember she called me and she said, well, we got 3 publishers interested. And she goes, Time Warner has offered you $50,000. I go, take it.
Yeah,
I
please.
said, oh my God. She goes, well, don't you want to see what the other ones do? No.
No.
I said, just take it. And, and I think about that naivety, you just, 50,000 sounds like a lot, but you don't get it all at once.
Yeah.
And, and I paid an editor. So there
Mhm.
went 6,000. Now you pay your agent. And then
Mhm.
then the internal revenue takes chunks. And by the time it's, you get it in 3 pieces, I figured it up. I started the book in 2006. It came out 2008. And I figured I made, about, by the time it's done, $3,000 a year after everything was paid for. But nowadays, all those rules are gone
Yes,
because
Lord.
the only people the big publishers are publishing are people with humongous followings, celebrities, sports figures, political figures.
Right.
Unless you've got even the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm telling everybody this on YouTube, even as big as my book club has gotten to be with 850 chapters in 21 foreign countries, they took my book out of print after so many years because they said, well, we went through 2 printings. So we feel like it's run its course. And I go, no, it's the first book everybody's supposed to read when they join my book club. So anyway, I got the rights back, republished it myself. So you can read it. You can read it now and still
Yeah. Well, I
read
have
the
a
original
copy.
book.
Yeah, I have a copy of your first book. The other thing that has happened to me, which I'll share because I'm very excited about this. My book is being translated into Italian, and I've been invited,
Yay!
yes, and I've been invited to make a book presentation in the little town of Otranto in September. So I'm real excited about that.
That's major.
Yeah.
That's major fun because there's
Yes,
nothing more fun than Italian people.
I know.
I every time I go there and I go, I could live here. I,
Yes.
seriously, people are so friendly and kind that yeah, I could really live there. And
And
so good for you. Well, you'll have to keep us posted on so lots of pictures and everything and
I
keep us
will.
posted. And
Can
maybe you never know. Maybe somebody in Italy will want to make it into a movie.
Yeah, you never know. I already have a friend who wants to play the lady that disapproved of my trash. Can y'all can y'all see the mosaic that's over my shoulder?
No.
No,
Is that's my mosaic
it's
up
so
there.
far back and I don't have on my glasses. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but go ahead, tell us about it.
Okay. Well, that was the other metaphor in my book. What I had decided to do when I took this trip alone was to have some activity planned, like my very first week, so I wouldn't feel so miserable and so alone, and I can meet some people possibly. So I had read Terry Tempest Williams' Finding Beauty in a Broken World, and
Yeah.
she had gone to Ravenna and taken a mosaic lesson. I thought, oh, that sounds good. I'll do that.
Mhm.
And this little town I was in, the wall city, and I was living right in the wall city, was like 587 people. And then outside of the city, the old city walls, it sprawled out to maybe about 5,000 people. And right away I said, they aren't going to have any mosaic classes. I'll have to find another place to locate probably. But don't you know, they had a school. Okay.
I'm letting my cat out. I'm sorry. It's
Oh, okay. You want me to keep going or stop? Okay. So,
like knocking at the door and it's getting louder and louder. Go ahead.
so they actually had a language school there where they taught Italian teachers how they were certified to teach Italian English teachers how to speak English, and then English speaking people could come there, teachers, and learn how to speak Italian. And they had just a little assortment of side classes, cultural classes. And don't you know, one of them was a class in mosaics.
That
So
is so cool.
I don't. So I signed up and I go the first day, and I'm the only person in the class, which I had no idea that I would be the only person in the class. And my instructor does not speak a word of English. So over a period of a week, we learned to pantomime. We taught each other words in our language. And it was just a splendid time, but it was also a backbreaking work time. I had no idea. My mosaic is made out of marble, and cutting marble into little tiny pieces was exhausting. At the end of each day, my back was killing me. My hands were swollen. By the end of my writing about the mosaic, I wrote about my hands bleeding because when I was cleaning it, my knuckles would hit against the uneven stones and break the skin. So I have not only a humility stone in my mosaic, but I have my blood in there that we couldn't get out. But the thing happened to me, the same with the trash. I'm sitting there, I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm thinking, my life is broken into these little fragmented pieces. What am I going to do? And by the end of that time, I recognized the process of strategically placing the broken pieces and securing them in place and using the mortar until the pieces become a whole, and they become a beautiful whole. And that's what we are. We're fragmented. Things hit us in our lives. They take chunks out of us. They leave us in little pieces that we've got to pick up and put back together. And so these lessons, and I'm not young, y'all. So these lessons came at a later age in life, and I embraced them. And so every day now I keep that mosaic there behind me, and I say every day I'm fragmented, but now I'm whole. But I'm still made up of those fragments, and we all are.
There's something about working with your hands. I had a wonderful, one of our authors wrote a book about making pies because she lost her husband. And she had divorced him, but she was still in love with him, and he died. And she had this humongous guilt. So she started baking pies. And there's something about working with our hands physically. Like I spent the afternoon painting. I am a happy camper. I love to paint. And so, but whether you get in a car and just drive around the country or, doing something literally that lets our mind kind of discern all the things that you've hit on a hot topic, and especially for women of our age, because I went back to school at 59.
Yes.
Thinking I had to have a degree. And then by the time I got it, nobody wanted to hire me because I was too old, because, I'm 65. And I tell everybody the only job I got offered, well, other than a $10 an hour, teaching children art, was a local college sent me a message, and they go, "We've seen your resume. It's fantastic. We want you to apply to be the athletic director." Now, I keep getting calls from this guy. And I'm determined to drive up there after girlfriend weekend because, first of all, it's an African-American college. And it's kids from all over that come in, and they have, a huge athletic program and choir program and all this stuff. But I can't imagine what, bachelors of art and fine arts and art history would have to do with athletic. I mean, over the whole athletic program, not just a coach. I'm over all the coaches, and I'm going, well, is there something I don't know? Or are they that desperate? But I found a way. And COVID actually helped me, because when you're isolated in your home, you got to get to work doing something. So I have painted and created and written, and that's what we all do, right? I bet all of you have got more work done during COVID than any other time of your life, wouldn't you say?
Well, the creative process, and I really think that's what you're sharing with us. The creative process is what allows your mind to let go of all of the garbage and all of the fragments and immerse yourself in something that brings wholeness to you. So it's
And
I
sharing
highly
our stories too. You sharing your story makes people realize, oh, she had that happen too. I've been married and divorced twice, and
Mhm.
I was ashamed also. And then I realized, shoot, I know one girl that's been married over 10 times in Texas. In fact, she doesn't even get divorced anymore because none of them are legal after 10. Can you
Well,
imagine?
let me tell you this, when I was going for my second divorce, the court made us go for psychiatric evaluation.
You've got to be
And
kidding.
no, it was a requirement. Um, and so we went to see a psychiatrist, and I was such a timid soul back then. I was scared to death. I was a housewife. I didn't work outside the home. I didn't have just a high school education, and I just felt less than. And so I'm sitting in this office, and he comes in, he shakes my hand, and I'm weeping because I'm getting my second divorce. And of course, my family, which was extremely religious, had at the first one had already written me off. So the second one was even worse. And he said to me, "Oh, I've been married 6 times. That's really why I'm a good marriage counselor." And you know what? He testified for me in court.
Oh,
So,
hey, that'd
but
be a great short story. You should write.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, six
But
times.
yeah, and the other thing I want to, with my story, is to encourage women that it's never too late. You talk about how old you are. My book was published when I was 75. So
No way. You're not 75.
I'm
No.
seven. No, I'm not. I'm 76 now.
Oh my gosh, you don't look it. You don't look it. You're
So
young, you're as young as you feel. I used to say you're as young as you look, but nah, not so much anymore because I feel it. I feel the age. But that's parents' genes and stuff of how you look.
But I
But
want women to know that we can recreate ourselves over and over again. I've been my very first job was a gopher in a furniture store. I was 17 years old. And then in my day, if you went to college, you were a school teacher or you were a nurse. And so or secretary. I was a secretary, and then I was a homemaker, and then I was a medical underwriter, and then I was a manager, and then I was a director, and then an executive director, and then a president. And, then my husband and I had our own business. And then now I'm a writer. So there are no limits to what we can do if we support each other and lift each other up and have faith in the power of our own creativity.
it's so true. I talked to one of my 90-some-year-old authors today from California, and I said, well, can you do Girlfriend Weekend? And she goes, oh, you bet I can. I mean, she was just excited. She's got a wonderful new book. It's called Conversations During the Time of the Pandemic. And she is all about us sitting down at a round table, and having discussions. And that's what makes our life so valuable. Sitting down, whether you have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and telling each other stories. And that's what we do here at the Pulpit Queens. We're sharing each other's lives through telling all of our stories. Because I'm going to open it up here, and I'm going to let the all of you that are joining us tonight ask if you have any questions of Donna. Just raise your hand if you have any questions, and about the writing process, or you know I'm always curious about what is the hardest thing that was, about becoming a writer for you. What was the hardest thing?
I think actually letting go of the book, getting it published, because that with my second book is the hardest thing still, is letting go of it, because all my life I tried to be perfect, the perfect this, the daughter, the perfect wife, the perfect, and I failed miserably at most everything. So But it's still there. It still hangs on to me. And it's like, oh, I can't let it go. I'm sure there's a mistake somewhere in there. I'm sure there's a sentence that makes no sense. I'm sure this chapter shouldn't even be in there. So it's that self-doubt. That's the hardest thing, and to let go of it for me. I don't know about everybody else.
I know Mark Childress, who's one of my favorite authors. I adore him. I asked him, I go, what do I do for my book? What do I do for my book? And he goes, your book's done. Your publisher's got it out there. Start the next one. Don't even look back. It's in God's hands now. And it's true. You know, I know we all have to promote our books. And that's why Mandy and I've worked so hard coming up with ways of getting you all out there in a way that, you know, we don't have bookstores or libraries or you know, even festivals right now. So we've really killed ourselves coming up with, and I think we've done a pretty good job. We've got our writers club, our book and film club. We've got our new Reading Nation magazine.
Yeah, that's a great
magazine. Yeah. So good for you. So, well, you know, your writers group is going to let you know too. They're going to say, okay, time to start the next one.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm writing mystery now. And my working title is called The Red Starfish. And so I should finish it before, and I've sworn to myself, I'm going to write that last line before the year ends. And I've already started the third book, which is a sequel, hopefully, to this mystery. I'm kind of looking at a series. But now that I'm writing, and again, it's the joy of the writing, is, as you said, not thinking about being published, not thinking about this or that, moving ahead, putting the words on the paper. I have a story I want to tell about my great, great, great grandmother who ran a trading post on the Tennessee River when women didn't do such things. So that's going to be a historical fiction. So the stories are there. We all have them. It's finding that inner courage to put them out there and keep writing.
Yeah, Pat Conroy was the big encourager too, because he would stand in line at our girlfriend weekend and buy every single book of every single author. And he goes, well, you're here. And people would just bawl because, I mean, I did when Sandra stood in front of me and said, will you sign our book? And I'm like, oh my God. That's just like, it's crazy. But all of us have those moments. And so for any budding authors that might be listening to our show later on YouTube, any advice to what is the best course of action to get started?
Put your butt in the seat and write. That's the only way to do it. I don't have a particular technique. I've seen writers that are so organized, they just make me very envious, but I am not that way. But there are people that do outlines. They have boards with notes,
storyboards and all that.
I write. I sit down and I write. And I learn who my characters are. They tell me who they are. And I know that they are the most important component of my work. So eventually I have a notebook and I'll say, oh, that character is coming along kind of nice. I need to write, you know, who are they? What do they look like? What kind of clothes do they wear? What kind of food do they like? And I kind of will put that down. But it's mostly, well, it's writing. It's making yourself, finding the time and the energy to put into your writing that you do other things that are not nearly as important or satisfying. So that's every new writer that comes to me, and I worked with 2 on Friday at the Pat Conroy Center that came to see me.
Yeah.
And you know, both of them, they said, oh, they're nervous, they're this and that. How am I ever going to finish? I said, you sit down and you write, and you write until you finish. You don't think about the end. You don't think about the marketing. You don't think about whether you'll sell a single copy of a book. You write for the pure love and joy of writing. And then everything else it'll work out. It'll work itself out.
Well, you know, authors
just want to add one little addition to that. When I was teaching creative writing at the university locally here, what I stole a line from Janet Burroway, and I'll adapt it to your trash. Just sit down and write trash. on the first pass. Do not look at it. Do not attempt to censor yourself. Shut that internal censor into a jar and shoot it or whatever. Get it down, and then later you can summon up that internal editor. But you need to just let it flow, and you will surprise yourself.
Yes, that, what else too, and this is Stephen King's on writing, which I happen to just love. And, he says the first draft is one of many, and what you will do is rework and revise. I mean, the second book I'm getting ready to release, it's probably in its 20th draft or something, because the story creates itself over a period of time. And when I started the second book, I had a dream, and I knew how the book ended. Had nothing else, just how the book was going to end. So I wrote that last chapter. And out of that last chapter came 3 or 4 characters. So I started writing about those characters. I'm finishing the book now. The ending is totally different, but I started with the ending. So that's why I said I never give advice about a certain style or discipline. It's like, just write, just sit down and write. Like you said, let it flow. Don't censor yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Know that it's a work in progress.
Anybody else have a comment or question? Yes, go ahead, Suzanne.
So generally writers like to read. So I just like to ask you, what are the last 3 books that you have read?
The last 3 books that I have read, A Gentleman in Moscow.
Oh yeah, it's a great book. That was
Absolutely
one of ours.
Yeah. And I just, let's see. These are the other 2. The Forest of Vanishing Stars.
Oh yes.
Houston Harmel. And now this one was an advanced reader copy. Speaking of Marley and I are friends, and she wanted me to read Anticipation by Melody Winnamer. So those are the last 3 I've read. But let me just add something further. Whatever I'm writing, I'm reading that genre. So when I was writing memoir, that's what I read. I'm writing mystery now. So my favorite mystery writers are Louise Penny, that I just absolutely adore her, and Andrea Camilleri, who is an Italian author. He has since passed away, but he's written an Inspector Montalbano series that I absolutely love. And I love it even more because it's in an area of Sicily where we stay. So it's great fun. So I do that. I'm reading a lot of mysteries now, but these are this and that Gentleman in Moscow is just fabulous.
I love all of Eleanor Tiles' books. They're just incredible. They're great. Kitty.
What about you? What are you reading?
Suzanne?
Yeah, I'm reading a book called The Hip Shot by Michael J. Miller. He used to write for the state newspaper in Columbia. So I used to read his music columns in the state newspaper.
Okay. Are you originally from Columbia?
I went to college here. So
okay.
I kind of like Columbia, actually. My parents live in Lexington, so I've been coming home to Lexington for the past 33 years. So
yeah. And I probably should take that back. It didn't work for me. There was a time that it did work, and I'll tell you about that period of time because it was really quite wonderful. There was this fabulous professor at the university, and I took her class called Caught in the Creative Act, and her name is Jeanette Turner Hospital, and she's a Australian author. And that to me was absolutely the most amazing experience. I got to meet people like Joyce Carol Oates, and Rusty. I mean, she would have these authors that you were just in awe of. We would read their books, we'd discuss them, and then she would bring them in. She just knew everybody. So that was a great period in Columbia, and I was thrilled with that. But Columbia is a sprawled out town, and I needed this really small community, walkable, and I want it to be on the water. And,
Yeah,
you know,
I'd love that to be by the water, so by the coast.
yes.
Yeah.
And we're so close. We're 20 minutes from the Atlantic Ocean, Hunting Island. I can, on a clear day, I can pack a picnic lunch and take a book and go sit out there. We have the waterfront park. I'm 5 blocks away from it, and I just walk down. We have the wooden swings there that I can sit in and just watch the sailboats go. We have the old swing bridge, so I can watch the sailboats, and it has to open, and the traffic has to stop, and I just love it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful
It's
place.
beautiful.
And yeah, and it's where I found my writing community, and that made all the difference in the world to me. Columbia was so sprawled out for me that, you know, I didn't make the connections because the university was downtown, and it was a real chore to drive down there and find parking and make a connection. Whereas here, you know, I can walk to my writing group, so it's a huge difference.
Right. Okay.
It's true.
But
Anybody
I'm
else?
glad you like it. I'm glad you like Columbia. It's a nice city.
It has a really vibrant arts community now, and there are a lot of literary events and things like that that weren't really happening when I lived here. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the people there, a politician, just was appointed ambassador to Slovenia. And I was excited about that because that's where I hope to go in April, is to Slovenia. So I still have those travel plans and those travel dreams, and I still want to go.
Yeah.
Eileen, did you have a comment or question?
I just want to say hi to Donna because, and Kathy, you should know that it was because of the Pulpwood Queens that she and I got to meet each other. However, it really connected on social media. And I think I wrote that I was going to Florida, traveling through South Carolina. And she said, well, why don't you stop by? And we had such a lovely afternoon, a full day, really. I got a tour of the Pat Conroy Center. We walked to the water. We had lunch. And, you know, I feel like old friends, really. We just connected. And my husband I think he bought about 5 Pat Conroy books, and he's not a big reader. He's still reading them, and he's trying to read them in order. And now he wants to borrow, I have the first one, How Wide the Water, is that the name?
Water is Wide.
Water is Wide. And now he says, I think I'm ready to read that one now. He's been, it's been such a nice memory, and I'm so pleased that the book has done well. And you know, when I did a workshop and I talked about memoir versus fiction, because my book is based on my experience that became fiction, a fictionalized version. And it's just so hard to reveal yourself, I found. And I mean, one of the reasons that my book was better as fiction from different points of view, it told a broader story. But the parts about that were mine, it's just so hard to reveal yourself. And I give you a lot of credit, Donna. You're open and honest, and it was just such a wonderful book to read. And to have read it after I knew you, I could just feel like you were talking to me. So it was just delightful.
Thank you. It was a lovely time. And I know our paths are going to cross again, because we're gonna do something together at the Conroy Center. We're going to do a Zoomy thing.
Okay.
You know, on your topic of fiction versus memoir, because I just think that's a great thing for people to consider. And, you know, I thought about it long and hard because I didn't want to put anything personal in my book. And when my readers, I do have wonderful beta readers, and they said, we love the story, the food, the wine, everything you show us is beautiful, but you are narrating this, you're not in it, and you're the main character. So you need to put yourself in here, and we got to know a little background. So that was the tedious part. That rewrite was really difficult, is to keep going back and to put another little chunk of my personal life in there. That was hard.
Yeah.
You guys all read, the Prince of Tides, the stories from all the authors. Well, Pat, when I was writing my memoir, I had a major glitch because my mother tried to start the publication of my book. So I called him. So you'll have to read the chapter in the book because I was brave and I told everybody exactly what Pat told me. And it was way out of my comfort zone. So you'll have to read that story. But he was a wonderful mentor to many authors, including me. And that's what it's about, mentorship. That's why we started the Writers Club. I mean, Eileen's done a workshop. It's wonderful. We'd love to have you come sometime, Donna, and do one. But having authors mentoring to newbies or even seasoned professionals, you learn. Every one of these I listen to, I go, oh my gosh, that is just the most brilliant thing. I never would have thought of that, So we have to have the talk. We have to join the conversation, and we're so happy we partnered with the Pat Conroy Center, and I love that whole family. There's nobody in it that I don't love, and all their brood, and stayed with Melissa up in when she was in Philadelphia, but I will tell you that we are more connected than we even know, because when you get in a group such as the Pulpwood Queens or any other reading group, you'll find out, oh, you know that author, I know that author, or you don't, let me introduce you. We're always doing that back and forth, and nothing makes me happier when I see two of my Pulpwood Queen authors who never knew each other doing events together. And that is so cool to me because we're making connections. So I hope we made a bunch tonight. I want to let you guys all introduce yourselves quickly. Suzanne, we told everybody that you normally live in Japan, and you're from South Carolina. So your book's coming up on our list, and it's, you want to tell, your title, and we'll just kind of go around the thing.
Yeah, so my new novel is called The Baseball Widow, and it's like a multicultural family drama set in Japan.
All right, sounds great.
Going around the world with books, aren't we, Kathy? Kathy's up in the queue too. You're going to be coming up. So what's the title of your book?
I live in Maryland, but I've been in the Middle East and Africa and Europe. And the title of my book that is featured is The Shores of Our Souls. It's a love story between a UN official who's Muslim and Lebanese, and a young woman who works at the Metropolitan Museum of Art who is from North Carolina.
All right, that sounds wonderful.
I love these
Love
stories.
the title.
Thanks.
And Eileen has been a Pulpwood Queen Book Club selection for her wonderful book that's being picked up for course adoption, everything. So tell us quickly about where you live in New Jersey.
I'm in New Jersey, and the book is called Freedom Lessons, and it's told from 3 points of view: a white teacher, a Black teacher, and a Black high school student. And it tells the story of a small town when there was mandated integration, and it just gives you a view of the challenges that most people don't know occurred in 1969. We think that everything is okay, and here we are still struggling. But
Great book. Great book.
And we have TK Thorne. Teresa lives up in Birmingham, or down the road in Birmingham, Alabama. And she's got some great books, and they're so different. Oh, your audio's off.
Oh dear.
There you go.
I said, that's a lot of chutzpah you got there, Kathy, making fun of my Alabama accent.
I love Birmingham. I've got a lot of author friends there. Harry Madden and Michael Morris. I mean, there's just a lot of authors from Birmingham.
Okay, well, I am an Alabama girl and have lived and worked in Birmingham for many years. And my book is nonfiction. It's called Behind the Magic Curtain, Secret Spies and Unsung White Allies of Birmingham Civil Rights Days.
Wow.
And that really describes it. It's the decade of the 60s and the city that changed the world. And it's behind the scenes or behind the curtain in the Magic City, which is what Birmingham's nickname.
Okay, we're gonna jump up to Sarah. Tell her where you live.
Well, I am in the far corner of the Pacific Northwest, Washington State. We're going to be building a new house 10 minutes from the Canadian border, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And my novel Pause has been selected for 2022 by the club, which I'm very grateful for. And it's the story, as Don is talking about, this is fiction, but close to events from my own life. The hot flash queen of America basically reinventing herself in her 50s after divorce, cancer, various struggles that she goes through. But I use a humorous approach, sort of like Bridget Jones's Diary, to get you through. So a lot of women seem to be relating to it, which I'm really grateful for.
Kathleen?
So I was born in New Mexico, lived in Alaska. My sons were born in Alaska, and I ended up in North Texas, lived in Louisiana. So my fourth novel, The Flying Cutterbucks, was the April book pick, and I'm so grateful and honored. I'm about 3/4 the way through my fifth novel. And I want to say hey to Suzanne, because we have the same publisher, The Baseball Widows, White McKenzie. And then Kathy Ramsberger, my good friend, her sequel, which I got to endorse, is called 1,000 Flying Things. I think that comes out in 2022, 23.
Either late 22 or early 23. Let's keep our fingers crossed on the shipping boats in the harbor.
But I love the Pulpwood Queens, and I knew people before, but it just cements relationships, and it's just like the ripple into the pond, and it just keeps rippling out, and just goodness. And yes, I had way too much fun at the party store the other day with my hubby. So it's actually, I got home, I'm like, oh my God, that's a king's hat. Oh no, I'm all about female freaking empowerment. But then I'm like, but there's a crown and there's some animal prints. So yeah, I just needed to have fun tonight. And it looked Christmassy too. I felt like a toy soldier here the whole night.
You'll have to see my latest blog of the latest mug that Mandy sent to me. I think you'll all get a kick out of about my Rita mug, but we like to have fun. We don't take ourselves all that seriously, but we do our books because if you're reading, you're going to be one of my best friends in the world and so I want to announce, we've kind of put it out there, but Bookish Road Trips is going to be doing a video January 2nd announcing our January books, but I'm telling everybody now, our January lead book is Work in Progress, which many of you are in. It's our anthology. It's going to be our lead book, and Mandy championed this. This was her brainchild, and it's to keep, I think we've got nearly 60 authors that are featured in this book, to keep them out there, to let people know you need to read these authors' books. So that'll be our lead book. Our international read is, I cannot tell you how much I love Purple Lotus by Vinay Ray. It's a wonderful book about a woman born in India that moves to the American South. Her name is Tara, and was in an arranged marriage, and she comes to the States. Can you imagine? But this book is a bridge, and our theme for our weekend is building bridges through reading. So we need to learn more about other cultures, other peoples. We aren't that much different, but we are in some ways, but let's find those similarities through conversation. So you've got to read it. And The Purple Lotus has a whole story in itself, why the cover. And then you talked about a historical book about a woman who ran a trading post. Well, this is Market Street Madam. This is a Colorado author who wrote about a woman who ran a house of ill repute. And it's about a woman who, with limited means, finds a way to empower herself through, kind of unusual ways, but that's how the West was won, baby. So we need to read Randy Samuelson's Brown's book. It's really great. And last, I have to tell you, this is a Texas author, and this really struck home for me. River Sing Out. This is a bonus book club selection, and this is about a man that has an abusive father and runs into a girl by the name of River, which we all love River, our River Jordan, the author, but she's got all this stolen meth. And it's a story of kind of this Southern Gothic tale in the East Texas bottomlands, y'all. That's where I live. I live in a swamp. Well, it used to be a swamp. It's now called Holly Lake Ranch, and it has all these springs. But these are our books for January, and we're going to be announcing our books real soon. We were waiting on a few last authors to confirm, and Mandy to get some. She also has another real paying job of working for Amelia Islander magazine. So it will be out coming up with all your books, and we'll have the big announcement, press release coming up soon. We have our votes in for the books of the year. When you're picked as a book, we ask all the book club members and authors that are members to vote, and the votes are important. If you didn't vote, you missed a chance to vote for yourself. So remember that next year, if you're on the list, you need to vote. But the votes are in, and we'll be announcing that at our awards ceremony Sunday night of our week-long Girlfriend Weekend. Jonathan Hope will be there helping me, and he's also going to be announcing how much money we're raising for the Pat Conroy Literary Center, because every year I do a fundraiser for literacy. It used to be the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, and now it's the Pat Conroy Center. And we're really hoping that we can really double it. Last year was really down, so we're going public. So this is going to be very exciting, and there's no place I love to go more than Beaufort and Savannah and Charleston, Hilton Head, all that gorgeous area. And Mandy's just down the road at Fernandina Beach, so Florida. So I hope to head that way as soon as this COVID thing's over. So got my third booster. Y'all, my passport's up to date. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to read. Donna, have you thought about doing a trip where you could do a book tour trip? Because I've gone on several literary adventures where we did that.
I'm part of one for this coming March. It's called the Low Country Literary and Leisure Getaway.
Yay!
And yeah, in fact, I've invited Marley's going to be on one of the panel that I'm emceeing. She's and Cassandra will be, and Valerie Sayers, who is a student of Pat's, and then John Worley and Scott Graber, who were classmates of Pat. So we're doing a whole Pat Conroy literary and leisure tour, and I'm helping with that. So yeah, those are great things. They really are, and they're so much fun.
They really are. And I've been to the Low Country Festival. I've been there a couple of times, but then this COVID thing hit. So
yeah, I know.
And I always said, Pat invited me, Sandra invited me to their house. In fact, I was at Sandra's house on her birthday a couple of years ago. And but it just, that's why you guys do take the trips, do the things, because if I'd gone when they first asked me, I could have been there, but Pat passed away, and I missed that. I missed a lot of opportunities just because, life gets in the way. So enjoy life, do everything you love. Donna, keep writing those books. We really look forward. Make sure that Mandy and I both get copies, because we both are reading them together. And it was really a good thing that she came along, because this year we received over 1,250 books. So
Wow.
if you got picked, and I looked at every single one of them, that came my way. If you got picked, that's a big deal, a big deal. And when somebody said, well, oh, I'm just a bonus pick. And I go, well, let me remind you who else was a bonus pick. Jamie Ford, The Hotel and Corner, Bitter and Sweet. Jeanette Walls, The Glass Castle. You know, we've had a lot of authors that were, Lisa Wingate, before we were yours, was a bonus book club selection. We really try to give the book of the months to newbie authors. And so now we're really continuing that. And so we'll have bonus books, and we are now doing international book club selections. So make sure we get the books as early as you possibly can, even if they're manuscripts, because when you got, I mean, my whole, if I turn my camera right here, oh, this is going to fall. I'm going to turn this because I want you to see, I'm not going to hold it there very long, but here's some of our books that we picked. They're on the board. They're ready to go. I can, that you just have to wait. But we're going to be announcing those soon. And I'm very excited about our list this year. It's the most diverse. We're going around the world, and a lot of new authors, So Donna, thank you for joining us. And Buford, that all those girls down there have a special place. I love them. They really rolled out the hot pink and leopard carpet for me when I was down there at the book club festival. I remember this one girl ran up to me and she said, oh, Kathy, I've got something for you, because I know you just must be starved to death because you drove up from Florida. And she goes, I've got some of these little cheese biscuits.
Oh, yes.
And she ate that whole bag, man.
Those were Mary Green's cheese biscuits.
Yes, that's who they were. And I said, oh my God, I've got to get the recipe in my next book. But
thank you for choosing Solo and Salento as a bonus book for December. I am absolutely thrilled to be part of the Pulpwood Queens. And I thank you so much for all the work you do and all the good things you do for the Pat Conroy Literary Center and all the things you do to bring joy into so many lives. So thank you.
Well, you know, Pat was a friend, but Sandra, I know way better. I mean, she's been here for every book, and we have some great stories. Someday we should write a book together because we've had some funny things happen. But they're like family to me, and I tell everybody, and I'm going to end with this. Somebody put on Facebook, I always encourage everybody in our book club, the chapters or individuals, to take on a literacy effort. And this one just is so simple. For every book that you read, put $1 in a jar. And at the end of the year, give it to some literacy endeavor, whether it's your local library or a school or the Pat Conroy Literary Center. But this lady did it. She said, I donated $50 to my local library so they could buy books. And I thought, I'm doing that this year.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Great
$1,125. Well, I didn't read them all, you all. I mean, some of them you know, when you pick up a book, and I've heard the story, a lot of them are so great, but I've heard the story before, you know. When you read for 21 years for a book club, you see, you know, similar books, but I look for the story that's telling it from a perspective I've never heard from before. So keep that in mind, because we all want to know the story behind the story, because it's all about the story. So thank you for joining me. Get everybody to come to our book club convention, because Mandy convinced me to keep the price at $2.99 this year. Everybody's broke. So we normally double December 1st, but we're keeping it $2.99. She also talked me into, and this has been a poor 2 years for me because I haven't been able to work, all reader memberships are now free. So we're picking up close to 1,000 new members. Oh. And the authors still pay, but you know, we're advertising you guys every day. We try to do, and we give you a focus. If you're a book club selection, a week out of the year, we try to really showcase you on our blog and at the book club meeting. So, and the Reading Nation magazine is incredible. Plus, Paul does our newsletter, which is pretty incredible too. And we have advertising in it. You can actually publish stories. So have a wonderful Christmas, no matter what faith you are or where you come from in life. It's all about connecting us together, building bridges. So building bridges through reading is our theme. Let's get everybody to join hands, get everybody to join hands, and we're all going to come together, and we always have a good time. We always have the best time ever. So get your packages if you haven't, and we'll see you there. Every author who comes will be recognized in some way. We're going to list you all in the program so people will know that you're coming. So if you are coming, send me a JPEG author photo and book, and I'll put you in our album, and Mandy's going to put you in the program. So, and that's going to be out there for eternity. We've got it up there in the Reading Nation magazine. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Now let's all get to reading, okay?
All right.
All right.
Ciao,
Love you.
ciao.
Say hi to all my friends in Beaufort.
I will. I will.
Okay. All right.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Chris.